States of Mind is looking at a very brief account here today of the situation regarding polarization within democracies. And it's a given that polarization is a driver in certain circumstances of radicalization, and that radicalization is in fact the prerequisite of violent extremism. But the interesting thing for me is the way that democracy's autoimmune disease, and that is where various aspects of the democratic state are set against other important features of that state in order to reduce the overall democratic effectiveness of the state. And I want to look at these three key concepts of democracy, which the French called liberté, égalité, fraternity, freedom, equality, and togetherness or brotherhood. Now, the interesting thing is that of these three concepts, the first two, freedom and equality, are legal concepts. Within democracies, these concepts are defined in law. They're often in the Constitution, protected by the Constitution. They can certainly be tested in the courts and defended as legal rights. However, these two concepts of freedom and equality are in a constant state of tension. It's no accident that states which prioritize freedom have more inequality, and those states which prioritize equality have reduced individual freedoms. And that's the natural state of affairs with freedom and equality. To a certain extent, the democratic experiment, or the experiment of democracy, is to try and find an enduring, sustainable balance between freedom and equality. But the third concept of fraternity, which is really, if we look at it, what we mean by social cohesion, and by that I understand the values of concepts such as pluralism, compromise, tolerance, respect for the other, and so on. These are the soft values, and they're not legally protected. Fraternity is not defined by the courts. You cannot be punished for not showing respect to another or for being insufficiently tolerant of someone else's behaviour, unless, of course, you break another law. But the actual feelings are not illegal. The actual feelings of rejecting fraternity and rejecting tolerance and rejecting compromise. There's no way that any government can take action against someone who refuses to be, if you like, engage in social cohesion. Now, this puts an enormous emphasis on the individual to actually practice social cohesion on a daily basis. And I think that in the sense that governments are unable to punish or even reward social cohesion, at least they're really struggling to do anything about it today, what we're seeing is quite the opposite. We're seeing divisiveness and polarization and so on. It puts an emphasis on those of us who are able to act, to promote and to intervene, if need be, in everyday situations. And I'm just going to flag that at this point, that there will be more on this subject. But these three concepts of democracy are not equal in the sense of their being protected. But without fraternity, we don't have the glue of everyday democratic values. And this is what's so perplexing, because without that glue, we have a situation where freedom, for example, and we see this more and more in the US, has become the freedom of the sinking ship, of every man for himself. And this is where the European model of democracy, historically, traditionally, since certainly World War II, has been very successful in promoting the concept of social democracy and the engagement with the other. So if we want to protect social cohesion, we need to reach out, not just in terms of allowing concepts and individuality to devolve into identity politics, but actually strengthening the centre. There'll be more about this later. Thank you.